This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Things We Carry. Today, we're joined by Dr. Nitin Shah. So, a quick intro for Dr. Shah. He's a professor of anesthesiology and critical care at Loma Linda University and an interim deputy chief of anesthesiology and critical care at Tibor Rugen VA Medical Center in Long Beach, California. He was an active academician in the early part of his career, and he's done a ton of pioneering research in monitoring during anesthesia and in the field of pulse oximetry, cerebral oximetry, and processed EEGs. He has also been involved in over 430 humanitarian missions in the last 30 years in 16 different countries. He's a past president of the Jane Center of Southern California and the founding president of the Aneka Community Center. He's also worked with thousands of volunteers and many nonprofit organizations in, like I said, 16 different countries. He has also mentored hundreds of students and has guided many in their ultimate career choices. And in his words, he just loves to give time, skills, funds, expertise, and just all of it. So, Dr. Shah, we're so excited to have you here today. Huge thank you to Bharat FM and also South for Cause for making this possible.
Thank you for finding me.
Of course. I mean, it was really easy to find you, Dr. Shah. You are the man about town. Running into you at the Madhavan event last week, the week before that was great. So you truly are the man about town, whether it's any type of philanthropic event from any different organization, any different like South Asian group, you are there. So it was very easy to find you and have you make time for us. So we're excited to have you. And I think we just want to learn more about you because your resume spans decades and its impact is felt by so many different communities, not just locally, but around the world. So I have to ask, we got to start with the basics. Do you have an immigration story to this country, whether it's you, your parents, your family, and what was it?
Oh my God. We're going to start with what brought me to this country, even though I always wanted to come to America when I was graduating in medical school. I happened to be unfortunate to fail the ECFMG exam at that time in 1975. So I chose to go and do anesthesia as my post graduation, but my desire to do research actually escalated quite a bit at that during that time of 4 years of my anesthesia residency. And I was trying to figure out how will I be able to get to America. And so I moved from India to Zambia to Zimbabwe, and then I came here. But the way I came here is definitely a challenge, and that it, in itself is a story from me to all the listeners that if you decide you want to do something, there will be a way if we are honest, straightforward, and work hard. And my story is my late wife, she passed away 31 years ago now, was suffering from breast cancer while we were in Zambia. And I brought her for treatment here in 83 and applied for 800 positions, 800 applications. And I was still not lucky. So we went back and she was doing fine. We moved to Zimbabwe. She happened to be an anesthesiologist as well. And while we were in Zimbabwe, we were unfortunate. She got the metastatic disease. I came again here in 86 with no expectations or desire to stay here, even though that is what was our strong wish. But I had resigned to the fact that maybe it's not in my share of luck. So we were here for my wife's treatment and then go back to Zimbabwe and then pack up and go back to India. While we were here on day one, after the treatment, week one, we were in Florida, and she did very good looking at Disney World. And she told me at night that, why don't you try one more time? Because you always want to do research and wanted to be in America, etc. So, hey, again, 200 more applications.
Oh my
And
God.
Monday we were leaving America for good. Thursday before that, I had to make one last call. And that call was to Dr. Robert Bedford, who was the chair of anesthesiology and critical care at that time at the world famous Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And when I called him, he says, "Come on over, I've got something for you." So I come see him on Friday, and he says, "I can give you 6 months of research position."
Wow.
And obviously, I couldn't believe, and yet called my wife. We're coming back in end of December, and I have a job for 6 months. I had only two questions to ask Dr. Bedford. One, will my wife's care be taken care of by the insurance that I will get? And second, what happens after 6 months? So the answer to first one was easy. He said, sure, shouldn't be a problem. Second, it depends upon how we get along, what we do, etc. I said, fine. And then I said, okay, this was September. Can I start tomorrow? And he says, no, only January. Okay. So we packed up, went back to Zimbabwe and came back in January. And after 2 months of working together, he was certainly very pleased and kind, and gave me 2 years of job and sponsored me for green card. So that's how I got my immigration status here, despite, of course, my late wife's brother has been citizen here and he had applied for us. But as the things were going with my wife, it was not going to be because it was taking too long. But God had different plans. 1,000 applications.
Applications. Oh my God.
There was one gentleman in Manhattan, Mr. Patel. He was my solid supporter besides my family. All my friends, I have about 65 friends, classmates, not friends, classmates in America. I had spoken with many of them, and everybody had said this is a bad time for foreign medical graduates. But the destiny had different plans. So
I know, and it's the final call that like ended up going through and making a difference. I think that is, from hearing your story the last time we spoke, I think that is going to be, I feel like, a big theme where it's like, it's just that push that you have to keep going. And yeah.
I mean, look at the luck besides me and my generations, but more importantly, I could not have afforded to have my wife being treated at the world famous hospital for her cancer. So we got double benefits by working there and getting her there. And actually, Robert Bedford was so nice that after we got our green card, he even gave my wife a part-time job to do quality assurance project. So when she finally died, she was still on the job.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is
Yes.
incredible. And like you said, it's like a world famous facility and just with the top minds there and you getting to work among that and forging your career here first there with that kind of name on your resume and that type of like funding for your research and everything. That's incredible. Even though it all came because of a really difficult time, I was the start of like a really magnificent career.
If I was to say in one sentence, I owe my life and career to breast cancer.
My God, that is heavy, but that is, I think, the most accurate statement possible. Yeah.
Yep.
And when looking at the fact that you're in medicine and you had to experience like so much grief and everything so close by as a medical professional, what was your first introduction into medicine? Why did you go into it in the first place at all? What pulled you in that direction?
That's another stranger story, Varsini. I did not want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a chemical engineer, do business, make money, and then help and serve people. That was what I was growing up with. Again, in my college in Baroda, the MS University where I am from, out of 1,200 students, first 45 will get straight admission into medicine. And my family, extended family, everybody knew that that's where I am and I should try this, etc. And I happened to be 43rd. So I did not even have a choice not
Mhm.
going to medicine. So literally, my family pushed me to be a doctor, and we were very naive in those days that we will not argue, we will not express, and we will not tell. That
Mhm.
is what I want to do. I
Mhm.
43rd, I'm getting admission in medical school, and I'm going to be a doctor, and that's how I ended up. So honestly, because I did not fancy I will study, and I stayed all through my medical school, just about average. I will kind of read up exam time and get through my exams, etc. I was not that thrilled for any particular subspecialty, etc. during that time. And of course, towards the end, I felt that I would want to be a surgeon. And of course, because I did not pay that much attention, did not study that hard, my grades were not enough to be a surgeon. So I chose to end up on the other side and be an anesthesiologist. And actually, I like it that I did that.
And that's like one of the most competitive fields. So like you ended up excelling in something that you didn't even really want to do to begin with, which is, I don't think, the case for most people. So when you're sitting there studying as a young not Dr. Shah, but as a young Nitin Shah, you're sitting in this classroom being like, I don't want to do this. How did you make it through? Yes, you had a lot of family pressure, but was that the only thing kind of driving you? Was that enough to drive you at the time because you were so young? And like you said, naive.
Correct. I certainly have been. I come from lower middle class family, and I did know that being a doctor will be certainly a little bit easier to support my family, etc., going forward. And since I did not want to rise up and say what I want to really do or not, I just accepted.
Mhm.
And kept studying for whatever is necessary and getting through the exams. But other
Mhm.
than that, did not pay much attention until I really joined anesthesia. And there is a little part before that. 6 months after my final MBBS and internship, I tried to work in a mobile clinic in Mumbai, India. And during that time, my father had a mitral valve problem, the heart problem.
Mhm.
So he underwent surgery, and then he was out of commission. So I was the bread winner for my parents and my younger sister.
Mhm.
And so when I went back to medical college and Shaji Hospital, I will get and do whatever branch I will get a paid job, because to I will have to spend money to my parents from
Mhm.
my income as a resident, which is not much.
Yeah.
And so it was, but I certainly was smart enough to know anesthesiology will be easy to get in versus surgery or other branches. And that's what actually happened. My chairwoman, Mrs. Subnis, was very impressed with me in 1 month of work, that she said, I'm going to make sure
That's amazing.
that you come back into anesthesia. And I did.
That's amazing. And were you practicing in India for a certain number of years before you moved to the US?
No, actually, remember, my goal is to come to America,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that was not happening. But my friend had come to me who wanted to go to Zambia. Now, I didn't know
Mhm.
much about it, but I learned. And at that time, me and my wife, two anesthesiologists, we are in demand all over
Yeah.
the world, actually. So I just gave him my papers that, look, if there is a job for me, I'll be interested. My interest were twofold. One, if I stay back in India, I will have to go in private practice, because government salaries were not that good at that point, at that time.
Yeah.
It's different 30, 40 years later, but at that time. And if I go to private practice, I will not be able to fulfill my dream of doing research, because while I was in anesthesia for 3 years as a resident, I produced 8 research papers. That had never happened in our department ever before. And I
Okay.
and two of those were presented actually in Germany in Seventh World Congress of Anesthesiology in 1980, from Zambia that I went to there in 1979. So I had no choice but to leave the country. Of
Yeah.
course, little did I know that Zambia is not going to offer me a great opportunity like that to do much research, which I unfortunately could not. But the destiny had another option for me. In a year's time, I was made head of the department. Remember, I am only 1 year out of my training, and
Oh
now
my,
I've got a responsibility of 4,000 anesthesia and 17 people department, and I did that for 5 years. So they certainly liked what I was doing, and I enjoyed what I was doing. So I gained a whole new dimension of life.
yeah. And I think that's what they say when they say baptism by fire, because you're 1 year out of your training and they're like, run the whole thing. How do you deal with that? Because it's also not anything like, I think medicine is different from running a company. I think there's a lot of things that you can learn about running a company. Did it kind of function like that? Were you scared at all with this like huge responsibility? Or you're like, I just have to do this. I just have to figure it out.
No, I wasn't scared at all.
Yeah.
I just took the job, take the bull by the horn, and run with it.
That's incredible.
And yeah, I mean, we don't have time, but I can tell you many challenges that I had to live with. But no, and obviously, every year they reevaluate, right, whether to continue him as a that position is very prestigious is not the right word, but it's a very responsible position. So they want to make sure that they have the right person.
Yeah.
And I left the job as head. I didn't have to have somebody
Yeah.
else.
On your own terms. Yeah.
Kind of. I did have an Egyptian consultant, very elderly gentleman who had come in 6 months before I left. But even though he was supposed to be my boss, he wasn't really being able to do things. So it was still. Well,
Yeah.
when you are 75, that's how old he was at that time. So
Yeah.
obviously, but he was wonderful. He actually gave me anesthesia for my hernia operation. But
Oh,
yes, yes. So he was wonderful. But more or less, I left on my terms to go to Zimbabwe.
that's amazing. And then when you come to this country, when did you first start getting into like your philanthropic efforts? Like how did you find what you were
I
interested in and what you wanted to give your time to?
I came. I will go back in a minute, but let me address your question for this country. I came to New York in 1987,
Mhm.
and I was doing my American training between New York Hospital and Sloan Kettering Cancer Center from 87 to 91. July 91 is when I came to Los Angeles. And
Mhm.
literally right away, or I would say 1992 is when I started my journey of philanthropy in and around Southern California, and then India, and then international.
Mhm.
But the seeds were shown in 1977. That was during my residency in India, when literally single-handedly, and I say so because I was the pioneer and I continued, but of course, no one person can do everything and anything. So there are a lot of people who help, but it was when I was on call, I got to take care of a 22-year-old engineering student
Mhm.
who was suffering from Guillain-Barré syndrome, wherein the paralysis sets in from the feet upwards. And if the diaphragm and the respiratory muscles start getting involved, at that time, we had no ventilators and facilities, etc., in India in my hospital. So previously, every single patient had passed away. And I happened to be on call, and was called that he's having breathing difficulty. And I just had some ideas because I used to read a lot of old literatures and journals and all.
Mhm.
I said, we can try something for him. So I put the patient with the endotracheal tube on a device called Oxford inflating bellows. This
Mhm.
is literally late 18th century device. But we
Mhm.
had it in our department, and I was aware of it. I was aware how does it work.
Yeah.
brought it. And, every time you take a breath, you press it to breathe for the patient. The family members, 16 of them, continued that for 7 days and 4 hours. And
Oh,
continuously looked after him. Every challenge, they'll call me for all those days. Of course, there were a lot of other residents, surgeons, the physicians and all help. But for first 3 days, everybody was saying, I'm wasting my time and giving hope to the patient. He's not going to make it.
mm,
Fourth and fifth day, well, he's still there. And the eighth day, finally, I could take the tube out, and he was doing fine. He became an engineer. I connected with him once after that. So that is where my giving really starts, in terms of the joy that you get of being able to do something that has not happened in that hospital. And that's Saji Hospital of Baroda is a huge hospital. It used to have
mm.
1,000 beds, so it's not a small place. And yet we didn't have enough of facilities to take care of such patients. So that is where it all started for me, of course, with a long hiatus. And I used to do a lot of things in Zambia and Zimbabwe, which I haven't really spoken much about. But people will look for me, and I used to go with the flying doctor service in Zambia to real remote place to do things, which we do now also, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, so etc. And taking you back to my schooling days or growing up, there were 4 years when I spent with my maternal grandfather,
Mhm.
and he is my idol and hero. And I have learned a lot from him about how he was giving, how was his nature. And he was an administrator, captain of the cricket team, oil mill. He used to gamble and lost money, and still he gave so much, so much, so much. And all this is, I think, ultimately coming from the key principles of Jain faith that I am, and that's what I grew up with. Ahimsa, which is non-violence; Anikantvad, which is multiplicity of views; and Aparigra means non-possessiveness of your skills, everything, your money, your possessions, give them away. So that's where it was all there, but it had to take literally several years before when it started blossoming out.
Yeah. And I was just going to ask you like how you built your value system, but it sounds like your faith was the main thing that informed a lot of that for you. And having people in your family, like your grandfather, who embodied it really, really fully, not just by saying like, oh, like going to the temple, whatever, that is a way of doing it, but like really walked it. It sounds like you had those figures to inspire you too.
Yeah, he did a lot just by his accents. He never told. And, I still come from, my ancestors were very, very ritualistic Jains, and I am not as much. Even my mother had been. She lived with me for 20 years in America,
Mhm.
and never drank water after sunset, always drank boiled water and followed the rituals of Jain religion, etc. She taught so many of Jain community members the similar things. But no, I think I picked up a lot more about giving from my grandfather. What is important, how to treat a simple human being. Doesn't matter whether he's of your level, not this, that, and other. And that is what has, I think, blossomed out. And I learned a lot more about the theories of Jain religion after coming to America, a lot more than even before. Yes, I knew a lot of rituals, and I can still do some of them very well, but not in terms of the basics. The basics were by my grandfather of giving. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just give.
That's that's amazing. And I think that is what like the essence of most religion is. If we just boil it down without offending anyone to just rituals, without intention, without knowing what you're doing, and without some extension beyond just your prayer time or just your puja time or your temple time, it's not that it means nothing, but it's like it's supposed to affect the world in a way. Like you are supposed to be like a means to affect the world positively. And if you just keep it within whatever prayer time or observational time you do, you don't get to see the effects of that.
Right. No, I mean, rituals have its own value, no question. And
Totally.
remember, you mentioned I'm past president of Jensen of Southern California. So
I was going
obviously,
to ask
I,
you.
I couldn't be a president if I wasn't believing in the rituals. So
Yeah, yeah.
I totally respect rituals, believe in it, etc. I have no qualm. But it all depends upon how much time you want to spend behind rituals versus behind the applications of principles. And
Yeah.
I personally believe in, there's no point of talking about aparigra unless you're going to really try and practice it.
Hmm.
So Anekantva, the same way. I've been part of many interfaith activities, and I have no hesitation, reservations. I've been to a lot of different religions places, including mosque and the churches and gurdwaras and all. I work with all different communities for charitable and giving work. So I don't have any reservations. And yet, if you want me to do arti for Jain religion, we actually try to do every evening at home now. That
Amazing.
app, that credit goes to my wife, but she has an app. So every time if
Oh,
I have time,
cool.
I spend those 15 minutes with my wife doing arti that goes
That's
on in
great.
the temple. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I respect, but if you tell me that I'm going to tie you down and commit you to do only 10 hours of rituals, it will not be me. It will
Yeah.
not.
That makes sense. And when you were president of like the Jade Temple and like the society and everything, how did you face like any resistance towards like how you interpret it? Because religion is such a like fraught, heavy subject. And like you said, some people believe more in leaning on rituals than others do. How did you kind of find that middle ground to make sure that everyone was happy, but still like you were trying to do it in your own way? This is just like a side question. I'm curious because it can be really sensitive and divisive.
You are very right. And
Yeah.
if you want, we can continue talking on that for the rest of the time. So you rightly said it's a side question, but it is so important. And
Yeah.
I certainly was very fortunate, Varsini, that when I was president in 2002 and 2003, two things had happened. One, 2001, 9/11 had happened.
Yes.
So I had been out in USC in Orange County, talking, representing Jain faith, and giving little speeches along with all other religions who were talking. So that was pretty good, interesting, and I really enjoyed it. And the way I like to do it is simplify so that a person who has no idea, no knowledge of Jain or any other religions for that matter, how can they digest and go back and practice it tomorrow if they choose to? So
Mhm.
that's one important thing. And second, where the real answer to your question is, during my presidency, we expanded our temple from 11,000 square feet of temple to the current building that you saw, 75,000 square feet. Now, remember, this is a community property. So obviously, it's not one person. There are
Yeah.
several committees, several things that need to happen. And when you gather 10 people, if not 10, there are five opinions. And
Yeah.
so now my job was to put people together, including some of the past presidents of the center, that look, 11,000 to 75,000, lot of money. Do we need it? It's too big, this, that, and other. And I had to muscle through sometimes and convince people. We didn't have money also, $460,000 in bank account. And I had signed $7 million contract with an American contractor to start the cultural temple. And we won't go into how did we do it, but we did it. The
Yeah.
fact is we have the property and we
Yeah.
don't owe anything to anybody. So there are a lot of stories about that construction. But the point is, yes, there were conservative groups who wanted to maintain that, oh, look, we are interested in the rituals. We should only do this. We should not have such a big cultural hall, this, that, another. Why do we need a big kitchen? But there are things that we could manage to do at that time. And two past presidents did come to me in March 2005 who were very opposite of what we were trying to do. And they said, thank you. You were right. And your vision,
Music to
along
your
with the,
ears.
along with the committees, whatever you guys did, that was the right thing to do.
That's amazing. And how satisfying is it? But listen, you're a better person than I am. So you were probably very magnanimous about it. I would have been like, see, I told you so, like in the corner of my mind. But I'm sure you were very graceful about it.
Remember, there is a hypothesis that I have, which I like to practice on myself, which I'll tell it to you and the viewers. How do you maintain balance in life?
Mhm.
Okay, because everybody, no exception, is going to have ups and downs in life, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you are too happy with something,
Yeah.
look at the people who are more fortunate than you.
Hmm.
When you are too unhappy with something, look at the people who are less fortunate than you.
Hmm.
Guess what? There are plenty of people on both sides from where you and I are right now.
Yeah.
And if you have trouble finding them, call me. I'll let you know.
Oh my God. No, and I think what you're saying, it reminds me of like my favorite Bhagavad Gita verse, which has very little to do with religion, honestly. And it says karma nevadikaste ma phaleshu kadachana, which just means like do what you're doing because you want to do it without attachment or control or a grip over the results of it. And I feel like every time I've talked to you, because also spoiler for the viewers, we had to re-record this episode. So Dr. Shah has given us more than like the 45 minutes you're going to see here. But even the last time I spoke to you, I feel like I was going through this period where I was like, I'm not sure where any of the things I'm doing, where they're going to make me end up in terms of my career, in terms of what I'm going to build in the future. But I continuously return to that verse and I'm like, no knowledge is wasted. No like gesture of giving or compassion is ever wasted. So something, it'll all just, you'll end up somewhere and then you're able to look back on your life after doing so much over the years and you're able to connect the dots now. And I think that's what people forget is that in the moment you were just trying to live by a few of these principles, like you said. And this is like what it all added up to because no one knows. Like, I'm sure even you looking at some of the examples of your life, you couldn't have predicted some of the most amazing and some of the most terrible things that probably happened.
Yes, there
Yeah.
are. And that's why I neither get too excited and nor get too depressed.
Yeah, you sound like my dad. He says that all the time. He's like, the highs can never be that high and the lows are never really that low.
Because, what am I going to take proud of making one temple? There are people who have built many temples.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's certainly good. I'm not saying that it
Yeah.
doesn't make me feel good, but it's not like there are so many things that we need to do in life. So you just can't get too excited about something that you have achieved, which is good. You've learned from it, but look at beyond that. There's
Yeah.
more to do. There's more to do.
And I think it's always a good sign when everyone else is more excited about your accomplishments than you are. I think it's a good sign. I always think that. I'm
That is
always
correct.
grateful for the things that have happened to me up until this point and the awards I've gotten, etc. But I think it's a good thing that other people are more excited for me than I personally am for myself, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
And
Very, very true.
for you though, like what are the things that kind of give you that maybe that unbridled like happiness that may not be tied to accomplishments, but like the smaller things in your life, but the day-to-day, more mundane things than these massive projects that you've done?
I give you two examples.
Okay.
When COVID started
Hmm.
at Sanatan Dharma Temple, we started giving grocery bags.
Hmm.
And we used to give 400 grocery bags every Sunday for 21 weeks.
Hmm.
And just about third or fourth Sunday, I happened to be driving away because there were enough people, and I see one lady with two little girls and a what do you call it, stroller.
Mhm.
So one was that small to be in the stroller. I saw her walking from the door, I mean, exit area. She
Mhm.
picks up this and starts walking back with two little girls. So one little girl and
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
And I said, where is she from? So
Yeah.
I go stand next to her. I ask her, can I drop you? Guess what? No English.
Oh, okay.
Spanish. And me, no Spanish.
No Spanish. Yeah.
So I said, with the sign language.
Yeah.
And she said, yes, she was very thrilled.
Yeah.
So I put everything, her to kids. And then now, but how do we go? Because I need to know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
details, right?
Direction.
So luckily on the phone, she had written that. So
Okay.
it was about 2.5 miles.
Oh my.
Imagine, Versini, this lady was walking in the heat. It was around 12 noon, 2.5 miles to pick up the grocery bags. Simple thing. It did not take me even 10 minutes,
Yeah.
but that gives me happiness.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Second one happened in Jamaica.
Uh-huh.
We go out there, we've been there 5 times to do cataract surgery missions.
Mhm.
And second time when we went, our host who manages things, Horace, he comes and says to me and the ophthalmologist, two of them come from India, here is 4-year-old girl who is blind from birth.
Mhm.
And in Jamaica, nobody can operate on her for whatever reasons. There are ophthalmologists, but they don't want to. I mean, they probably feel scared. Can we operate on her? Well, lo and behold, we did. Next time
Wow.
when we came, we operated on one eye. A year later, when we went, second eye. And the last time we went, she actually came and met us, thanked us, and she was in the school at that time.
Amazing. That
You
is
know,
incredible.
things. But
That I mean, and even these little things are really big, I will say. But the first example you gave is something that any of us can do. It really is so simple. And I
yes,
mean, not to like toot my own horn, but I kind of understand what you're saying is like every time I buy groceries, I always just buy a couple more like sandwich boxes or something, even though I don't eat meat, like I get like the Trader Joe's like chicken club sandwich boxes. And whoever I see outside of the grocery store, I give it to them because I'm over here buying like $6 oat milk because I get a tummy ache if I drink normal milk. Like the least I can do is spend an extra $10 and make sure someone else is eating. And that I think is the thing that makes me the happiest when I'm able to do that and able to be like, okay, I'm going to eat. Someone else should be able to eat too. That's like not fair if that's not happening, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and when looking at all of your like humanitarian missions, like 430, I think the number is actually more than that, right? If
It's
I'm not mistaken.
532 now.
532. Okay, we got to update this bio, Dr. Shah. Like, you can't tell people 430, 530, like 500 plus missions. That is so impressive. Like, a really good thing to add in your bio. When looking at all of these missions, you've done so much, you've learned so much. What can you say like is the next thing going forward? Do you know like what is the plan? How okay, what is it? Yes.
Yes, I do know. And I
Yeah.
just started this thought 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Uh, we have been doing missions in Ghana, West Africa
Okay.
for 19, 20, 21, and we'll be doing it again this year also in September.
Okay.
I've traveled only once, but I've managed the missions. But seeing how we have done, and in 2020, without even traveling, the local doctors did 2020 cataract surgeries.
Mhm.
And nobody traveled. We just arranged funding and supplies to them, and they
Mhm.
took care of that.
Mhm.
So I have 2 weeks ago, the thought has come to me in 2023, I want to do 10,000 surgeries in Ghana.
Amazing.
And I've
Yeah.
told the doctor, not at your pace and time in 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
So he is going to work on it. I've told him this
Yeah.
year in September, in 2 weeks, we're going to do 1,000, right? So
Mhm.
why don't you spread this out to certain locations all over the country where
Mhm.
they can do 50, 100, whatever, and
Mhm.
then build up that next year you're going to do X numbers. So
I
that's
feel
what.
like this is incredible. You're like empowering him to almost like manage this project from on the ground. And so much of what you said, like, of course, it's very tied to medicine, which you have studied, like you're literally a doctor. But all of this is also like incredible management skills and just figuring out how to scale businesses, all of that stuff that I think that people struggle with so much on a daily basis, whether they're in a corporate setting or they're working on their own, you know, startup or whatever it may be. So when it comes to your management principles, I have to know, like, how do you just have a natural feel for this, or do you just set the goal and you're like, I just have to figure out how to get there? Because this is a
Little bit of both. Having
yeah.
done so many in different areas, and there are examples after examples, and
Mhm.
obviously we are not going to go there, but there are places where we have never been. We go there and set things up, and of course planning has happened before, and we come out with what we had intended to.
In-
So I have not had, except one mission that was in Fiji, where
mhm.
I could not get things done as I had anticipated before.
Mhm.
Every other place, and that's just one single mission I'm talking about. Every other place, we have been pretty close to 80% to 120% in our goals that we have set out to. I mean, last year, just about 6 weeks ago, before the mission, I came up with a plan. We're going to screen 10,000 people for anemia in 5 days.
Oh my God.
And we have a device. Remember, I'm a
Yeah.
done studies in monitoring. So Massimo is the company in Irvine here, and I did their first research in 1993 in UC Irvine. And
Wow.
of course, the company has grown to billions of dollars now in front of my eyes, so to speak. But the
Mhm.
CEO is a friend, and the company, they all know me. So I asked them, they donated all 10,000 tests to me.
Mhm.
And without even traveling, in 5 days, in five different cities, we got 2,000 tests done in each. I,
Oh my God.
I have the data for 10,000 samples. It's a
Oh.
very simple way to do it. Put up like a pulse oximeter, and it gives you pulse oximeter values. And in
Yeah.
another 32 seconds to 1 minute, it will give you your hemoglobin. So nothing is required. I can literally teach you, even though you are
Yeah.
not a medical profession, it doesn't matter. My wife,
Yeah.
she's a homemaker. She's kind of expert in it now by now because she's used it in so many places. So device is very simple. But I gave them 10 devices, 10,000 tests, and challenge them. All those cities who will finish 2000 will get to keep one of those two devices, and other five devices I want back. So that was the incentive. That was
Okay. Now we're talking.
it.
People are people. You know what I mean? People
I mean,
really are people.
you imagine Versini in 5 days, 10,000 in five cities, so 2,000 per city in 5 days means 400 tests. That's minimum of 400 minutes, minimum.
Oh my God.
But they did it. They
They
did
did
it.
it.
So now, well, that was too simple and too easy. So let's go and do 10,000 eye surgeries now.
Oh my God.
Okay.
This
And
is
then
incredible.
for India, along with Saromangal Family Trust, we are working on the same principle, the hemoglobin check, to go and check million people.
Oh my God.
We're
This
going
is
to,
also really incredible because, like you said, you have the data for 10,000 people. And I
yes.
also think, like, I'm starting to read a little bit more about this. Even my sister's in bioengineering, she's done a lot of this work as well. Is there's a lot of bias when it comes to like how research is done. It's not, it's usually sometimes on more affluent populations, a largely white population, non-diverse groups of people. So the fact that you're doing it in these types of regions where this might not be happening, where this data isn't available, that is mind blowing, honestly, because this type of like diversified data probably doesn't really get like prioritized in a lot of research studies and everything, because it's about like who has the most funding and who they're able to get to, etc. So the fact that you're able to do this is literally incredible. And I have one side question to ask you about this, but how do you get approval from these governments? Like, how is it working with all these like foreign bodies and agencies? Like, do you have to, or is it do you go direct to the hospitals?
Correct. I do believe in trying to find ways.
Okay.
And on one hand, I don't necessarily go and seek approval. On the
Mhm.
other hand, I have my own not only conscience but way of thinking. Now,
Mhm.
I'm checking your hemoglobin with a non-invasive device. I don't
Mhm.
need anybody's approval for it as long as
Yeah.
you're going to do it. So,
Yeah.
but for this 10,000 cataracts, I actually told Dr. Boateng Wayaf is his name, the ophthalmologist in Ghana. First thing I said is, put me on with the Director General of Health in Zambia, I mean in Ghana. Because yes, I know if I want to do this, cost wise also, it will become prohibitive. I can raise money, but then that can't happen every time.
Every
Uh,
time.
and it all started with what's the population of Ghana? How many people do you think can benefit from cataract or other type of simple eye surgeries? And then it filtered down to, I was thinking about how are we going to go about it, and I just picked a number. Let's just do 10,000.
Incredible. I think I could hear you talk about this all day, because the way you talk about it, it's like very simple concepts. And then it's like, yeah, it's like very simple steps that you take. Like, what is the population? What are the numbers? What are our goals? What are the resources we need to get it done? And then it all feels much less daunting. And also then like a little bit of your own spice and imagination. And you're like, 10,000. That seems right instinctually from all the other projects you've done. So I think it's a combination of everything. And the way you explain it honestly seems like obviously not just anyone could do this, but that all these goals that people have, like I want to help people, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be so abstract. It's all just takes simple steps to do, to make happen.
I mean, I started with in South Africa. First time when I did cataract surgery outside of India and America. America, I've never done any voluntarily, and in India I have, but we just gave money. There's so many places it happens in India, but South Africa, we were there in 2010 doing the eyeglasses and the ENT surgery mission. And at that time, they showed me in one hospital, we have 500 people who need cataract surgeries. Can you help? Now,
Yeah.
I had never done this before, Vasini.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what would my answer be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Let's
Yeah.
go backwards. Let's talk now. We're going to do it, okay? How many do you do here? Zero. What type of surgery do you do here? Only C-sections. Okay. So you have an operating theaters? Yes. So I saw that I could figure out I could put two tables and four tables at a time and all. And incidentally, my cousin sister's husband had been the director of MJ Institute in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. It's the best eye institute in Gujarat.
Yeah.
So right next day, I call him. I need two eye surgeons. And he gives me these two guys, Vipul Prajapati and Nirav Modi.
Mhm.
Since 2010, they've been with me in 5 different countries. The
Wow.
average speed is 7 to 8 minutes for one operation.
Wow.
And they are, you telling me down to earth? Oh, they are so down to earth, so simple people. And more importantly, they were 28 when they started with me. Yes, four
Incredible.
times South Africa, 5 times Jamaica, once Zambia, once Ghana, once Kenya. These are all places, if not both, one of them. Vipul is the main guy, but Nirav
Mhm.
has been with most of the places as well. They are amazing and it just works.
Oh my God. And you have a great team, it sounds like. Like you have a great group of people similarly aligned in values. I mean, regardless of their background, I think that's what probably transcends and keeps the machine rolling and keeps things working. So that's incredible.
In
Yeah.
October, we are going to be back in Jamaica, and this time the goal is 450 in 3 days.
Oh my God. Okay. I have to ask you, do you know who Pitbull is? The singer?
Who?
Okay, there's this like rapper singer guy named Pitbull. Pitbull, like the dog. And people call him Mr. Worldwide. I think you're actually Mr. Worldwide because this is incredible. Like seriously. I every time I talk to you, I'm like, there's just so much more to learn and just learn from you. And also like I think if people want to be a part of your work or help out and they're serious about it and they're going to be committed and they're not going to flake, how can they get in touch with you and the work that you're doing and be a part of it?
My cell phone number is
Are
56.
you going to say it out loud on this? For the
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
562-244-9035. It's more or less a public information. A lot of unknown people's call I get. So yeah, more often than not, now what I've started doing is please text me before you call. Otherwise, unknown numbers can be tricky to answer. But
Definitely.
and my email is simple, my name that you see, Nitin
Yeah.
Shah, and then MD at Gmail. So NITINSHAHMD@gmail.com. Yeah,
Oh,
get it. I'm always looking for volunteers because remember, uh, there aren't enough people in the world who are as passionate as I am. And I
mhm.
don't expect it to because everybody has different priorities, and which is fine. But if you want to give a little bit of your time towards something, and those too many little bits make one mission.
That's true.
I get too many of those little bits every time. So there are few people who have come repeatedly with me, but there are some who have come once or twice, and then there are people who have started things on their own as well. So I'm completely open, whichever way. And one important thing for all the missions in the other countries out
Mhm,
of US, I have simplified the cost part.
mhm,
All your cost will be airfare to that country. So
mhm,
let's say we go to Jamaica, you pay for wherever we are going in Jamaica or India or wherever. All the local costs for those 3 days or 5 days, I'll take care of.
wow.
Accommodation, transportation, food. So you don't have to worry, except of course your pocket expenses, sure. And then of course, if you want to tour, sure, you'll be on your own sort of things. But otherwise, versus what I have learned is there are many organizations who are very large, and they ask you to give X amount of dollars and they take care of everything. But that
Mhm.
X amount I found to be 2 or 3 times what I will spend on myself. So
Yeah.
I have learned about them. People have told me, oh, we just write a check of $4,000. They keep us in a nice hotel and this, that, and other. They take care of everything. Yeah, you're ready to go, South America. That to me wouldn't cost even more than $1,000.
Yeah.
You, of course, it will cost me some because I raise money to pay for the accommodation and all that. And of course, it will not be a 5-star or 4-star accommodation. You will stay. The only thing I promise, you stay where I stay. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in Zambia,
That's
one
fair.
place,
That's fair.
yeah, it's not that I'm going to be somewhere else and you're going to be in another place. No, in Zambia and Livingston, actually 4 or 5 years ago, we stayed in a room where there were two bunk beds, so four beds in one room, and me and my wife on one side and my friend and his wife on the other bunk beds.
Yeah. This is like when I spent the summer in China, like teaching at the school, and we were like living with the students in like, child size like bunk beds. Like the teachers had the exact same setup that like the kids had. It's yeah.
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 So most
Dr.
people
Shah,
accommodate. I mean, people who want to give and do missionary work, they are used to with all
and
this.
they're not going to like just like hang out, and sorry to like trash on some people, but they're not like college kids trying to just like drop this on their resume and do this once and then like be like, I'm never doing this again. No shade to anyone, but I think we can be honest that that does happen. But I think when you're like doing this for the work, none of this stuff matters. Like it really doesn't matter, because that's not the purpose of anything that you're doing. But Dr. Shah, this was so much fun. I literally cannot believe that we've pretty much hit an hour. In the last 5 minutes that we have, is there anything that you feel like you wanted to talk about that you didn't get to cover, or any last words that you want to share at all?
Yes, I do have a proverb, but that I will leave for the last minute. It's
Okay.
for fun, and I'm sure you will laugh as well.
Yeah.
But before that, I think there are some things that I've heard from people that, oh, I will do help you when this happens, that happens, and I won't describe those to you. And initially I used to feel that why I raised my son doing all this. He actually has watched me in so many health fairs. He has never traveled with me much outside, but the result is, when my grandson is 12 now, 4 years ago when he was 8 years old, my son flew down for a day with him so that he can volunteer in an IM health fair. He told me that I want him to see what I saw growing up, spending time with you, about what you told.
Yeah.
So, there is no right time. Right time is now. Do whatever. It's not that you find me or anything. Do whatever, but something which you can call selfless. Something for which you don't expect anything in return from anybody except the blessing.
Yes.
Do it. Start now, tomorrow, next hour, and little more, and you will have that feeling about whatever you did. And now, let me tell you, you asked me about the happiness part before, and I think I will answer you with this Chinese proverb. And
Okay.
it's a little fun as well. I got to see and know about this Chinese proverb. I read somewhere in 2005. And for last 17 years, nothing has beaten this. I've got many other things, but this still beats it. And obviously, I haven't been to China yet. So an Indian born, now in America, lived in Africa, but I had to go to China to find the secret of my happiness.
Yeah.
It's a Chinese proverb, secret of happiness. If you want to be happy for an hour, take a nap. If you want to be happy for a day, go golfing. If you want to be happy for a month, get married. If you want to be happy for a year, inherit fortune. Why? Because money can keep you happy only for so long, because we can neither eat, drink, or sleep with money. So, but ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be happy for a lifetime, go help someone else. And when I told this to my daughter-in-law in 2005, she says, Dad, yeah, it makes you feel good, but it doesn't last. I said, yes, that's why you need to go and do this every single day.
Okay, mic drop.
The feeling and the happiness that you feel when you help an unknown whom you don't even know cannot be described. You just have to feel it.
Yeah.
Go and try it out.
Oh my God, Dr. Shah, thank you so much. It's literally always a pleasure talking to you. And I feel like everyone's going to learn so much from this and be so inspired. I truly know that I am. And your last conversation also gave me so much to think about. Thank you for your time. And we'll see you at the next event. I'm sure we will run into each other. So I'll see you soon. Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा